With our October 1st Board of Selectmen meeting. I invite everybody to please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. First on the agenda, we have public comment. Anybody that would like to make a public comment, I would invite them to come up to the podium and just state their name previous to their public comment. So I will open public comment. Nancy?
I was going to get on the agenda, but it's not a big deal. I know, Nancy Wayne, I know you guys have it in your bylaws that you can't take public comment and make comments. I understand that. I was wondering if it's also a rule that you have to do it at the beginning, because I think at the end, and many other people have shared this with me, that at the end people can share their thoughts on the current topics at hand at that meeting. And not to cause a controversy, it doesn't mean you need to start answering, you know, and have replies, but at least people can get their thoughts out on a current topic, and it might have some bearing on what you discuss at your workshops or later in closed session.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Larry?
Larry Brown. Two people are not going to be on the budget committee, and I just wanted to be on record as thanking them for their work. I have some little experience of the budget committee, and just so it goes out over the airwaves, what wonderful work Sean did in bringing the budget committee into the 21st century. I was always looking for better steel for my stone tablets, and his improvements are wonderful. And Stan, I understand, is also leading as the rep for the water district. I worked with him on the ZBA. Contrary to popular opinion, I much enjoy his company, and you cannot ask for somebody with stronger, more direct, and usually useful opinions. And I just wanted to put that on record.
Thank you.
I'm here from the Casey Road Committee, subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. My name is Virginia Long, and I want to remind everyone here that fundraising is now underway for the Casey Road project. It takes a lot of money to get a conservation easement accomplished. And actually we're in good shape because we have an anonymous donor who has pledged $6,000 to match any donation from any individual in town, up to $6,000. And we also have a commitment from the Conservation Commission for $20,000, and there's a grant application that we hope will raise another 15. But we need that individual help. Every little bit helps, so this is a call out to all of you to send in the little bit that you can afford to help get that beautiful land over on Casey Road conserved forever, to make sure that it's always open for recreation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, I'm not seeing any, so I will close public comment. We'll move on to new business. First on the agenda, we have town planner contract acceptance. Heather?
We're very fortunate in town to have the esteemed guidance and knowledge of our wonderful town planner, Mr. Bruce Woodruff. He helps out with a number of projects around town. And this is his consultant agreement contract here that I need the board to approve because it is a contract. So I think it's pretty much spelled out. Extent his services, benefits. We're very lucky because, like I said, he doesn't charge us what he's really worth, and or what a normal planner would charge for the town. So I would ask the board for their approval of this contract.
I make a motion to go ahead and approve the contract for the town planner.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, please sign it.
There's only one signature spot. Do you want to all sign it, or?
You can go for it. And authorize Brian to sign it.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next on the agenda, 2019 to 2024 CIP discussion. I put this on here. So the planning board has been working on this along with the department heads and for basically all year. And it was approved at the public hearing on September 18th. We've all received copies of that. Hopefully all have had a chance to review it. So I guess I'll open it up to any discussion or comments from the board.
Are we voting on it now?
I would recommend that we accept it. But I wasn't sure if we wanted to discuss it first. If you want me to go through and highlight some things on it, I will. Yes, no?
Yep.
All right, so the capital improvement program is an annual recommendation report for the Board of Selectmen and the Budget Committee. It is mandated under New Hampshire RSA 674:5-8, and it has the basis of the previous CIP document entitled Capital Improvement Program 2018 to 2023, Town of Milton, final version September 9th, 2017. So there was several projects, approximately $4,572,071.70 of capital improvement projects have been proposed by various town departments over the next 6 years. 5 of the years are planning years. The various town departments have requested $736,350.67 in funding for 22 capital projects for the capital year of 2019. Only 6 of the 22 proposals are scheduled to either construct or purchase something in 2019. 15 of the proposals are to begin funding for future purchases or projects. I don't want to read the whole thing, and I would encourage everybody to read it, all residents, of course. There's a lot of information in here. I will highlight some of the projects if you want. One of the priorities for the board this year was to ensure that the floating 2024 sewer utility capacity and expansion analysis study be included in the planning year's portion of the program. Please know there's no spending is being proposed here. It's just for a capital study. The DPW director presented evidence that the road construction funding has remained level at $290,000 for many years, and it's really no longer enough to maintain the roads around town. And this is a recommendation of an increase of $35,000, which is a total of $325,000. This is offset by the highway block grant, which is approximately $134,000. So the total request will be $191,000. The board recommended the fire department pumper tanker truck. The board ranked the replacement of the police cruiser 2 and continuing lease of the police cruisers 3, 4, and 5, 2nd and 9th. There's no tax levy here because the funding is coming from the police detail income. The board also recommended the GIS system to continue. Presented a plan to prepare a 5-year level cost strategy for prioritizing and funding these layers, and ranked this proposal 6. And and then there are some other proposals here, but I will jump down to the one that wasn't recommended, which I was trying to get the information out in previous meetings, but still haven't been successful. The boat ramp project funding was not recommended by the board. This project was ranked last by the board because it was felt that the remaining required funding should come from the revolving fund, and that the board didn't get all the information they needed. By not including funds for this project, the recommended capital year tax levy total would be reduced to $802,190.72 for 2019. The board continues to recommend a potential increase of no more than 3% per year-over-year total capital expenses. This current, for 2018 to 2019, stands at approximately 3.8%. And just a couple last points. So the board recommends that the jurisdiction use some of the unexpected fund balance for the use and funding a portion of this recommended 2019 CIP if this action does not abridge generally accepted accounting principles, state statutes, or put financial well-being of the town in jeopardy. Finally, the planning board respectfully requests the Board of Selectmen advise us whether it has accepted our report in whole or in part, and what it shall submit for funding requests for capital projects as part of the coming fiscal budget year, in accordance with the CIP charge and policy document. So, hopefully sum that up and hit some of the highlighted points on it. Are there any other points that the board would like to bring up or discuss?
On voting on part or all of it, yeah. First of all, I want to know what kind of road plan is in place for replacing which roads in town, and that before we move forward with. I want to see some form of plan. What's earmarked for replacement? What's earmarked for culvert work? What's earmarked for paving, etc.? Is there any kind of plan in place for that yet? Or is it just this is the money we want and we'll see what needs to be done?
That I think the level of detail that you're looking for isn't in this plan, and hasn't been submitted to the planning board for review. So we'd have to get with the Public Works Director to ask those questions.
And then my second question is, second thought on this is, if the voters shot down a tanker truck on the warrant article in March, then I can't really justify going along with putting it through on the CIP. That's my opinion. And then also, I've had several phone calls about people worrying about what's going to happen with the boat ramp and turning it over to the state. A couple years ago, they voted $15,000 to be put in for the boat ramp, and I'd like to see the boat ramp put back on the CIP. And those are my opinions.
So I think there's a difference between what we put out for warrant articles and actually accepting the CIP.
Okay. But if they said no on a warrant article, then I still kind of feel that they've kind of drawn. I understand that, but I feel like they've put a line in the sand. So, I mean, you asked for my opinion, so that's my opinion.
I mean, I agree with Aaron to a point. I mean, I think that there's things. I mean, we just bought a tractor with a boom mower. I don't know why it's back in the budget for a CIP, but I don't know. I mean, remember the CIP is looking out, so you're starting to put right. I understand that. I mean, it's not huge dollars, but it's still right. And then there's things in here that that can be paid for. It says, what was I just saw it here? It was, oh, son of a gun. It wasn't a big one anyway, so. We're talking at a 3.8% increase. And the other question I've got has this been released to the taxpayers? Has everybody seen this? Is this in public?
Yeah, we had a public
Okay.
hearing, nobody showed up, but we did have a public hearing.
Is it on the website?
We followed.
I don't know if it's on the, I don't
Yep,
think,
it's on the
It
website.
is.
okay.
Okay.
It was on the website within less than a week, I think, from it being approved.
I mean, I just hate to see the whole capital improvement get shot down for things that people don't agree with. I don't know, I mean, the DPW garage engineering, no doubt about that one. That one's, a no-brainer. It's just, people have said no on some of this, and I just don't want to take away by burying it in a budget versus a warrant article. I mean, if something was in a warrant article last
Well,
year.
these are gonna be all warrant articles, so they'll all be separate warrant articles.
All
And we're just
separate?
gonna say recommended by the CIP or not recommended by the CIP. All this is a guide for us
Right.
Plan.
to plan and work on our,
So levels, you're trying to level fund.
So what are we doing with this? I mean, we don't have to accept it as whole.
I think we need to accept the report.
Yeah, we'll
But
accept
it
the
doesn't
report,
mean
correct,
that
correct,
we
okay.
have to follow everything in it. It's a recommendation from the planning board.
Okay.
And I don't know if we want to ask Bruce to speak any further on this. I don't want to put him on the spot if he doesn't want to be put on the spot, but I guess I kind of just did.
I think
The
it's
state statute is pretty clear
self-explanatory.
on this. The sole purpose of the capital improvements program, which includes the planning for spending money in the capital year and then 5 years of planning for the future, is only a recommendation to both you and the budget committee. And then from there, you make up your minds whether or not you're gonna write warrants or not to send to the voters. So this doesn't make anything in concrete terms, but what it does is, it gives you the guidance that you spoke about, Mr. Chairman. The guidance that I think the budget committee and the Board of Selectmen need desperately. The planning board did about 6 months worth of work on this, and so it is a great document. What the underlying principle in this document, though, and this is to your point, Mr. Lucier, is that you see the same piece of equipment more than once in the plan, and that's because you just bought one a couple years ago, but you're setting aside small amounts of
Right.
money every year until the life of that new vehicle is over. Then you'll have all the money put together incrementally so that there's no big spikes for taxpayers.
Right, I get that. I get my whole thing with this CIP is the way I've done it. My job is it's backwards. From basically we develop our CIP, we present it to our powers to be. They present it back we went to the city council in Somersworth. Then we took it to the planning board. For the planning, we presented to the planning board. This is kind of backwards from what I'm used to dealing with. So
I'm not sure that they did it correctly.
so we're doing it not correctly then.
No, we're following the
you're doing it
RSA.
correctly. That's a given.
The RSA kind of outlines it.
All right, so they're doing it backwards then.
That's a possibility. The point is that people confuse the money piece of it, which city councils have the authority over that.
Right.
We're not even a city.
I understand
So the rules
that.
are a little different from towns on how money gets appropriated and approved. A lot of times in cities, it is the city council, but here it's the taxpayers. It's the citizens that go to town meeting and do that.
Correct.
And so the piece about the CIP is that it's a recommendation plan. And it is a recommendation plan for the capital spending year coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a recommendation with regard to the long-term plan that follows that for 5 years.
Right.
That is, by statute, a planning board responsibility. And other communities kind of break the two pieces apart. They'll break that piece for the capital spending year apart and give it to the city council. But the planning board is supposed to do the planning of the capital improvement program. Bottom line is that it's simply your guide.
It's a planning document.
That's what it is.
And I get that. And one of the things I think that really bugs me that's missing out of this, and nothing against, I think the planning board did a great job with this. I mean, I know you put a lot of time into that, but is, the water precinct. I mean, it's like.
That's mentioned in here.
Well, I understand that but it's like, can you put a dollar in it? That way, if something comes down the road, does that, I'm saying, if there's grants, if the grants come up, we haven't got anything in here. I'm saying if we put a dollar in, it's kind of like, okay, we've got it in. I know we can't because it's a precinct. But what I'm saying is to start is put a dollar in. If something grants, we can't apply for anything because we haven't even started a plan.
Right, which is recommended. The board recommends the water district more fully analyze its future capital needs and work more closely with the planning board and planner to prepare a realistic plan. This is important because without a future capacity, capital assets, and expansion analysis study included in the CIP, the water district will not know whether potential developers can develop and utilize the water utility or whether said developer will be using all or most of the remaining capacity. Additionally, the town cannot require any impact fees, and the planning board may not request any utility fair share impact mitigation extractions from specific development proposals that come before them.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So if we could get the
anything
water district to at least get to this point, we'll be in a lot better shape than we are today.
I can speak for the water district, and I'm more than willing to sit down. I'm not sure if the other commissioner that's currently seated is or not, but I would be more than willing to explore that with whoever wants to come to the table and show me how to do it. I have no idea.
Sit next to Bruce, slide over a little bit.
I would have no idea how to even begin.
Are we too late in the game to add? I mean, if Rochester just got, I just sat there, they just handed out boatloads of money for water improvements in the state of New Hampshire.
We're never too late in the game. It does mean that what we have to do is have another public hearing. If we amend the capital improvements program recommendation report, which does require
another public hearing,
that the people see it, that they can comment on it, and that the board could make changes based on comments that make sense. And so, if there are changes, we'll do that. I think that Brian, as chair of the planning board, will shake his head up and down and say yes.
Just by what happened below us, with the money they passed out, we weren't even eligible because we haven't even started a planning. We couldn't apply for it. They couldn't apply for it. So it's, granted it's what, 1930 something. The pipes, basically the system is junk. So.
Well, that's part of the reason why we strongly recommended that the water district do this to find out where they are and what they need, what
right.
the capital needs are. We've been told year after year that they have no capital needs. And it's under their authority because they have spending power by
right.
statute as well. And I don't think that you can unilaterally put in
yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
Program. They have to request it.
Right, because they own the
Erin has her hand up.
Thank you. No, I forgot what. No, just kidding. The good news on that is that the money will still be available. It's several years. The money from the spill will be available, so we can apply for those grants for the water district for next year. So yes, it would be nice if the planning board could work on bringing the water district into the CIP. Because there is going to be the money for the grants next year. I know Rochester got a lot of money this year, but that's going to be an ongoing thing over the next several years that we can apply for. So it's worth it to bring them in.
The planning board has tried to reach out to them and the school board as well. So they've been trying to get everybody involved. I guess the only thing I would recommend if the planning board is going to revisit this, maybe also the planning board could revisit the boat ramp, because it seems like we have some of the information that's been missing to make a determination on that, and then maybe that recommendation would be changed in here as well. But make a motion to accept this?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second it.
All in
We want to
favor?
amend it with the wording to send it back, or no?
I think,
How they do it?
yeah, I think we'll just
Okay,
work
Do
with
it.
Bruce on the side.
okay,
All right, so all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And just a special thanks to the planning board and all the department heads, because all the department heads had to do a whole lot of work to get all that information to the planning board. And they were very cooperative. Okay, moving on. Next is Conservation Commission, non-voting member position discussion. Milton Conservation Commission.
This is me, Steve.
Oh, that's Casey Road.
Yes. I didn't bring a copy of the motion that the Casey Road Committee passed in requesting. So I assume you have it there? No? It's in the minutes from the last Conservation Commission meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't
She'll go get him.
realize I needed to bring a copy of that. I'll tell you what it's about. The Conservation Commission would like to have
Podium.
1 or 2 student interns serving.
All right, would you mind just coming up to the
Oh, sure.
podium so it'll,
The Conservation Commission would like to have 1 or 2 student interns to serve along with the commission. These would be, we suggested they would be non-voting members of the Conservation Commission. It would be an opportunity for students to learn more about conserving natural resources in the town, and to maybe get people interested who, if they stay in town, would later serve as voting members of the Conservation Commission. Maybe it would also reach out to other students because of them talking about it, and to their parents. It would just be another way of getting more interest in the town and getting young people involved.
yeah, okay.
So we had, did you get to find the wording? Okay, great. So we're requesting that the select board would be willing to appoint.
Mr. Chair, may I ask?
Yeah.
What, the donations you spoke of earlier, are they tax deductible?
Yes, oh, yes, that's a good question. Donations for the conservation easement to be accomplished on the Casey Road property go to Moose Mountains Regional Greenways, which is a non-profit, and they are tax deductible.
So people at this time of year, when they're starting to think about their taxes and end of year donations,
Yes,
they should consider
yes,
this.
indeed. It's a good time of year to be thinking about tax deductible donations.
Thank you. I just wanted that clarified. While we take a moment for this.
So we basically need to make a motion to allow the Conservation Commission to have 2 non-voting positions for student interns.
Yes, yes. And then the process would be the Conservation Commission would solicit, we would try to, we don't know if we'll succeed, letters of interest. We would review them, and any that we look positive, we would pass them on to you for them to be appointed.
All right, so I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we're back on to old business. First up, downtown parking discussion. Follow-up. Chief Brown.
It's gonna be delayed till we get back in the
So, we talked about this a couple meetings ago. You guys wanted to push it till now, have a conversation about what we're gonna do for this coming winter, for the winter parking ban, parking in downtown. You guys remember from earlier in the spring, state came in, they don't want anyone parking on their portion of the property that's down there any longer. That's where most people from all of those apartment buildings park. Starting December 1st, the parking ban starts at 10:30 and goes till 7 a.m. Most of those apartment buildings don't have off-street parking. The apartments that are owned above the antique store and the 2 directly beside the old Ding-a-ling restaurant are owned by the same company. And they have a couple of parking spaces beside the antique store in that dirt parking spot, but it's still not even enough to cover all of the apartment buildings that are there and the number of cars they have. It's definitely not enough to cover 2 cars per apartment. So
the state still hasn't come down and posted
they haven't posted
anything.
But the board, when we met with the state, the board made the decision that we would enforce it through the same, and the state's agreement was that we would enforce it the same as when the park is open, from dusk till dawn. So, or dawn to dusk. Sorry.
Well, they instructed us that they didn't want anybody parking there, is what they told us.
No, they told us it was okay that as long as they parked, they couldn't park there overnight.
Right.
They can park there.
Like a
from-
normal.
They can park there
yeah.
to use the park and stuff like that. They just can't
Leave
park
them for
the
3 years.
And
Right.
part of our stipulation for enforcing that was they needed to come down and mark that area off.
Correct. They haven't marked
So
it.
we still don't have that yet.
I put notice out from the police department to all the people who were parking down there, put it on their cars, notifying them the state's decision and the town's decision. And we haven't had the parking issues down there. The only real people that are parking there now are the ones that are using the park, fishing, that type of thing. We're not seeing the parking in front of the dam property anymore, or even right up against the telephone pole anymore. It's sporadic. Every once in a while we'll see 1 or 2, but nothing like it was earlier in the springtime. That being said, come December 1st, we're going to see it again. So I think we as a town, we either have to, we're going to continue to enforce it and we put it on the landlords and we send notice to the landlords that the ordinance is not changing. It's your responsibility to find parking for your tenants, or we figure something out. The problem is, my issue is, when we start to get big storms, that area of Route 125 is narrow enough, even with the cars not there and cleaning the snow out. Public Works Director can speak to this as well. He doesn't have to clean that portion of 125. You do the sidewalks down there though, correct? And so that area, when the state trucks are coming through to try and clean that out, if those cars aren't off that area, especially at night, most of the people don't change their address. It's not like the phone book days where we can find people's phone books, because most people don't have phones anymore. They have cell phones. So what we end up running into is we don't know where these people live. They're registered, the car's registered out of Somersworth, Rochester, Manchester, wherever. People's cars end up going on wreckers. And then we start towing people's cars just so we can clean up our roads. And it turns into an even bigger headache. And if they've got nowhere to put their car, the car's gonna be stuck right there. And then once the car's stuck there, they plow through, it's gonna narrow that area into 125 right there even more than it already is with cars parked there.
Discussion from the board.
Have we talked to the gentleman that owns those 3 buildings? Have we had any kind of reached out to him at all? Or?
So his building maintenance person had come up to talk to me and wanted to know what the town was doing, and I told him initially what the town's decision was and that it was going to come back up on the agenda. He said that they were trying to work something out to figure out more parking for their tenants, but they still didn't have enough parking to cover every apartment building for 2 cars.
Oh, it's not a town's problem to
It's not
provide,
our problem.
it's not our problem to provide parking for his tenants. I mean, whether he can go up and, you get across from Cumberland Farms, talk to Mike where the old Milton Hotel was, if he's got that parking spot there, if you.
I mean, the other problem is that, like the apartments above the Pizza Nook, they have legitimately no parking other than on street. Because I don't believe he owns any of that dirt section beside his building. So, I mean, at this point, I'm trying to see where the board wants to go with the ordinance and how we want to deal with the enforcement of this come December. Because I know ultimately this is we're going to enforce the ordinance as the ordinance is written, but ultimately that's going to come back to you guys once if we have to start towing people's cars who are parked on the roads there, if they've got nowhere to go.
I mean, do we want to send out an official letter to all those affected, and if they have a proposal for us, maybe we can work together to come sort of some solution?
I thought we did that
We said put
back in the
notices.
spring. Wasn't there a letter
We put
that was
notices.
They
sent
were all
to the
notified,
landlords?
right?
I believe you sent it to the landlords
Yeah.
when we were meeting with the state, the day we
Day
were
we met
meeting
with
with
the
the state.
state. Yeah, we
You
did.
sent it to the landlords that we were meeting with.
And you
the
got no
state.
response from that?
We had one landlord come in.
But we
Well,
never, I don't think we've sent any letters since we met with the state.
We
No,
have-
I don't believe so.
No, we haven't. We did send a letter to, one landlord did come in.
Just to the tenants. We've notified
Yeah.
the tenants of where they can't or can and cannot park.
Well, I mean, I think we should send a letter to the landlords that the state of New Hampshire has directed you to no parking.
No parking there.
So send another letter.
And they know, I mean, at least
And
the owners of the apartments above the antique store and then the two buildings beside the old Dingaling, they know because their maintenance person has come and talked to me.
and those all three are owned by the same person?
Those
Yeah.
three are,
Okay.
yes. And
So-
then the Pizza Nut building is owned by the Pizza Nut.
Right.
So
You
we
know, the
sent-
sad part about it is, it got abused by a few people that, you know, you had the white car that was out over the white line, and, you know, I think it was the storm of the elections. I mean, when he came up, it was over the white line, so.
The white car, the camper,
And cars
I mean,
filled with trash?
yeah.
I kind of, I mean, I get the impression from the state, I mean, yeah, ideally they don't want anybody parking there, but if they park in a way that it's not going to affect the removal of the snow, I'm not too sure if the state wouldn't be open to that. We
I wasn't
settled
there,
on the
you
dusk to
were,
dawn
so-
thing, but
He settled on the dawn to dusk thing, but I think their issue is the ability to keep it enforced and keep people parking in the correct locations.
but if they won't even come out and post the signs that we're
Yeah, where's our?
requesting,
Yeah. Again,
I mean, we had an agreement that they come out and post the signs and we'll enforce it.
mhm.
So
So maybe we need to call, what is it, District 6?
District 6.
And have
It
a
was,
conversation?
above
Okay.
District 6, that was,
Yeah.
yeah.
I can call him again and
So what
see,
do you want to do?
sent emails and made phone calls and no response, so.
Probably ought to give the dam bureau.
Yeah. I'll try again with them too, but I've been dealing with them since whenever they call and say, hey, this car's parked in front of us, yeah, well, you need to post it and make sure that people know where they can't park. And
Yeah, because they're going into Milton Garage and yelling at Milton Garage because there's vehicles parked.
they have nothing to do with Milton Garage.
Nothing to do with
Right.
Milton Garage, so.
But we've been fighting that for years on end to put signs up saying no parking, and then we can just come, and no parking violators will be towed at owner's expense, and we see a car in front of it, we'll come down and tow it. It's that simple.
Cut and dry.
But we're not just gonna show up and tow a car, that there's nothing letting people know that they can't park there.
Right.
All right, so
We'll
what's
send
our
a letter.
conclusion? We're going to send a letter?
Send a letter to the landlords and then send a letter to, and include all four or all four properties
All
need to be
four
notified.
properties, yeah.
If they actually have no parking,
We-
and that, then all four
mean,
or
just-
all four properties need
I
to be
mean,
notified.
basically, they directed the police department to enforce it.
They've directed us that they don't want people parking on their property. So
Right.
at this point, yes, they don't have the signs up, but they've directed us, it's their property, they don't want people parking there, so.
So just to play devil's advocate here, if we enforce it and we tow cars and there's no signs up there saying you couldn't park there,
It's gonna fall back onto the state, because that's their request, that they don't want people parking there.
okay,
So we're gonna do everything in our power to make sure that people are notified before we put a car on a tow truck. But if people don't change their addresses, don't have
So we
an
won't-
ability for us to contact them,
we're not gonna end up in a situation where it says, well, how can you enforce this? There's nothing out there saying you couldn't park here.
it's technically private property, and
Okay.
there's the town ordinance that says the park is only open from dawn till dusk. So once the park closes, you can't be at the park anyway, so you really have no reason to be pulled up to that fence, just sitting
Is there a sign there stating that?
there. There's not
Dawn to
required
dusk.
to be,
There's not.
the ordinance is in town, so there's no requirement to have the times that the parks are open. Residents are required to know their ordinances.
Was it at the last meeting that you said that was potential, or was it Pat? Somebody said something about potential losing 2 more parking spots downtown.
I brought that up. So the issue that I'm seeing in downtown with some of those parking places are right in front of the antique store. If you make the corner from Garage Way onto White Mountain Highway, whether you're going north or south. If you're going south, it's a little tough because of that first spot there. If there's anything bigger than a sedan there, you can't really see. And so going north, you have to go out and around that vehicle. So my expectation is if they came down and really looked at it, I would expect that spot to go away. Because it'll, at least with that one spot going away, it'll give you at least a little bit better line of sight. Obviously, you still have to pull out quite a bit to get around the building and see, but at least it would give you that line of sight there to move that forward.
All right.
We can't notify the tenants because we don't know who they are.
Right.
But you can notify the landlord.
But we can notify the landlords, and that's what we'll do, and it's the landlord's responsibility to notify the tenants. And so that's what we will do.
All right, so we'll leave the ordinance as is, and you guys will contact the landlords to see if they can come in and have a conversation with us, I guess?
Sooner rather than later.
We'll ask them to. If they
Yeah.
choose to, they do. If they don't,
It's on them.
it's on them.
And we are gonna contact the state then about posting.
Yep, I'll contact them
He'll
again.
do that. I'll do the letters.
All right.
Okay. And just so the board is on the same page, the ordinance that was voted on by the town, but the town doesn't have the authority to do, that still needs to be pulled. You guys still need to vote to officially pull that back.
So that's
2-hour parking in
Yeah,
downtown.
because it
That's
never
the
had a public
ordinance that-
hearing.
was just voted on by the Board of Selectmen.
The old Board of Selectmen, right. The previous Board of Selectmen voted on an ordinance that put 2-hour parking in on those parking spots in downtown. It's not, we don't have that authority. We have to get that authority from the state to put 2-hour parking on a state roads. So that ordinance was still technically voted on by the Board of Selectmen. So you guys still need to vote to recall that.
So we put that on the agenda for the next meeting,
Could you?
Can-
so we can
Do it
get the
now?
ordinance number
Oh, get the
correctly,
ordinance
so,
number. Okay.
unless you know what it is off the top of your head.
I don't know if you guys gave it a number, but
I don't think
I
we
know they
gave. We
voted
don't
on
think
it.
they gave it a number. They didn't give it a number. It was just kind of a.
I know they
That
voted
was
on it.
before I was on
The
the
state
board.
didn't give us permission for it, so.
I was sitting in the back row when they did it, I remember.
Which is something the state brought up the last time they were here with us too, so.
What?
So do we
It's
want
not
to
in
make a
the book.
motion now to,
It's just in the minutes. It's like it was just.
We probably ought to
We probably ought to just
get the
make sure that
backup,
it's-
the documentation of
Okay.
when it was, when the ordinance, or whenever
the
they,
fall of
yep,
2000.
right, get the date, and that way we can just at the next meeting just,
We'll find the minutes.
yeah.
That's where it's going to be found.
The next one's tabled until the other party gets back into town.
all right, so do we want to
So it's October
move that out
15th,
a couple, or?
Yeah, let's move it out to the,
November 5th.
yeah,
Okay. Just so I can get it for planning purposes, it makes
Yeah.
it easier.
In it,
the townhouse heating.
Okay.
if that's still a go, and we're going to ask the
We'll
planning
look
board, we
at
should
that,
add that
right.
one to it too.
Yeah, possibility exists.
Okay.
Bruce
Can
left, so,
Recognize that.
You were going to.
Brian, does the board want to?
sure.
Sure, okay, back to the heating system.
Yeah,
That's required by our CIP program to be listed under CIP. Anything over $10,000, is it over 10?
yes, I believe so,
It needs to go
12,000.
before the CIP.
Okay,
You can obtain the paperwork from Dana to start that process tomorrow.
alrighty.
It would be advisable because technically you can't do a thing unless it's gone through the CIP.
Right, and Ryan, I don't know if you could hear him,
Okay.
just said that if you're gonna open it back up for the water district in the
Right.
Water district
Ramp.
in the ramp.
Ramp, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so that the sooner you get it started, the quicker
Right.
you can get it on the board.
Okay,
All right, thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, recreation revenue and office discussion. This was a continuation of a couple meetings ago. I know that Karen's been working on finalizing the expenses for that. She sent me an email today, they're still not really up to par, so I don't really think it's, I won't say they're up to par, she's just not ready yet. And I don't think without the information it's worth
Okay.
Can
talking about. And there's also
I have that though.
these are kind of lumped together. There's
Caveat.
another request in here from Heather to discuss
Some benefits.
benefits
Just
that
to-
have to do with the
Employee handbook.
employee handbook and rec commission.
It has to do with the rec and has to do with library too, because I did some research. And I've talked to both department heads. I think I handed it out to you.
So if, I'll turn Heather over to that. And I guess we can continue the revenue and office discussion,
Okay, so this one's gonna be continued until next meeting
or,
or November.
yeah, whenever we have. It's probably the thing that would make the most sense is when Karen does her budget, so
Okay.
That's the 15th.
next meeting then.
All right.
Can I just ask, what is, if the numbers I gave you were correct today, what do you want more definition as to what?
To be honest, I didn't have a chance to read that email yet, because I got it.
The numbers are exact, they came off all the revenues that came in versus what the expenditure reports were. So
Okay.
that is correct.
All right, yeah, I just didn't have a,
It came in the
I didn't, it came in this afternoon,
Okay.
and I didn't get here till 5
All
o'clock.
right.
So I didn't
That's
have
fine.
time to really go through it.
We'll
and
talk 'em.
It didn't,
I just wanted to ask a question, if it's not what you want, what is it? that
well, no,
you
and
want?
I did see the email you sent out to the rec commission asking them to review it to make sure it was
Right.
what they were expecting, so I figured we would wait till the rec
Okay.
commission
All right.
gave their feedback before.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
So is that being pushed out to meetings?
No,
I think
To the next-
October 15th, because
I
that's
mean-
when she's
That's when-
presenting her budget.
No, but what I'm
So 2
saying, what I'm
weeks.
saying is, she's saying she wants input from the
Commission.
commission.
So
Are
when
you
is the
meeting in the,
meeting?
between now?
3 weeks. The third week, the third Wednesday of the month is when they meet.
So then we need to push this to November 5th.
That's what I'm saying, is I don't wanna work on this until they get a
Yep.
chance to review it,
So push this to November 5th.
5th. That nice busy already. Okay.
Okay,
Okay. I just had an update. I'm trying to keep the employee handbook updated. And after doing some checking, I found that there were some benefits that were offered in different places, and employees provide services to the town of Milton. So I'm trying to make sure that we're being consistent across the town. So I talked to different department heads. I found there are 2 departments that can offer and have offered benefits that I think we need to document in our employee benefit handbook, and they're right there. One is Camp Three Ponds, that residents, non-residents who are working for the town and providing services can enroll their children at the resident rate if they're employed at the town. And the other one is that employees can get a Milton Library free library card. And I think that we need to add that to the employee handbook, so I just need the board to approve that so I can add that to the handbook.
Is that regardless of whether they live in town or not?
Yes.
Okay, because that's not, I don't think that's stated for the library, unless I'm not reading this right, town employees.
Okay, then it needs that.
So you might want to add that verbiage to
Yeah.
it then to make
Just-
it,
Yep. Free public library. Town employees who are able to obtain a free town, regardless of residency. How about that?
right.
It's another benefit, just because they're providing services. And again, we want to document everything just to be consistent against all departments.
so I'll make a motion to approve the change to the employee handbook about benefits as
Great.
amended,
36A.
3.6.
3.6A.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Not that I want to get off topic here, but with all these changes that we're doing to the employee handbook, are they being tracked somehow? Is there a date?
What we're doing is we're amending, can I see that? Is that the most recent copy? If you look,
Is there like a revision on it or a,
yeah, it's in, you can read that, I don't know if you can read it, but it's actually in the Google Docs and it's the date here. And
okay,
it's in the minutes. We're going to make one more, as we talked about earlier, we're going to make one more adjustment to the employee handbook, and then I'd like to do is just say, just to housekeeping matters, I'm going to have you sign it. Because I don't foresee any other, but we are tracking in the Google documents, and as we've been making all these recently, we've been updating it,
So,
and they've been in the
could I
minutes.
maybe just make a suggestion? I'm not sure, see what the board thinks of this as well. Just so going forward, it's cleaner and easier to track our changes. Could we have like the last page of that? The date approved by the Board of Selectmen and the meeting that it was
Before the
approved in?
change.
So that way you can go back
And
and
see-
see,
Sure.
oh, we made these 10 changes and this is why and this is when.
Right,
'Cause we-
prior to it being changed, the change that was made, and the
Okay.
date that it all happened.
Okay.
Just to have a block in there, just so it's, because we're finding that now with
Right.
policies and
Right.
procedures.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Right.
know when or
just
who
like
or
a
why they
parking
approved
policy.
them.
Yes. So it's a,
Ask
Yeah.
for clarification. Do you want the original, how it was originally with the adopted, or just the new adopted? Or just
What?
the section, or do you want old versus new? How do you,
Well, I think on every revision, you're gonna have a different date on the front, and then in
Right.
the back, you're gonna have, you're eventually, if 5 changes were made, you're gonna have all those dates listed and when they were done.
I mean, we did one
so
last
just the
time.
date and the section?
Hit the
Yeah.
section
We've
number.
had
The
two.
date and the section number, yes. Yeah, I just think it might be helpful going forward.
Okay. Yeah, we've been tracking it that way.
All right.
Okay.
Next up, we have department budget presentations.
No, actually, you have yours.
Did I
We got the
miss?
approval.
You
We got
gotta
the
approve what
approval of
you,
the
you
one.
gotta decide what
Oh,
you're
yeah.
gonna do with the
I
ones
missed
we
it.
did last.
Selectmen discussion of budget presentations from 9/24.
Mhm.
So on 9/24, we had economic development, budget committee, fire, emergency management, library, welfare, town clerk, tax collector, and outside appropriations. So how do we want to go forward? Want to go down each one and make motions to approve, comment?
We're done scribbling.
Um, Well, we'll wait until,
You want
we'll
the-
go through
okay.
each, yeah.
Okay.
Go through each one. Where's the list out? Go through each one. And talk about it or whatever.
All right. So we want to go,
She's got a
Marco.
checklist right here on topic number 7.
No, that's tonight's.
yeah,
Seven
I'm
is
looking at
fine.
last week's list,
Oh,
but it doesn't,
okay.
as long as we're going off the same list, we'll be okay. So we'll follow this list. So first up is tax collector, town clerk. Comments?
I had them in the other order, so now I changed it. So. Hold on.
We can go in the other
Okay,
order.
nope, got it. No, that one I'm good with it myself. I mean, the difference is only,
My only concern with it is, it's a new position. I don't know, I'm just having a hard time.
So that, I have a similar concern, and this is my concern with any department that is gonna propose a new position, is we haven't seen everybody's presentations yet.
Right.
Also, the benefit line with so when I say new position, I'm more so talking full-time position.
That's what I'm saying.
So there's a cost that is in the town administrator's portion of the budget, which isn't gonna be presented till the very end.
Right.
The benefit.
So I think any department that's proposing a new full-time position, we should table till we see everybody's, and if we have 4 full-time positions being proposed, we're gonna, I mean, there's
Right.
no way we can
Right,
afford that.
Right.
Right.
So we're gonna have to
About
prioritize,
the insurance
and without knowing
not being-
what we're gonna see, I think we should, that's my opinion, we should table any of those budgets.
Okay, I agree with
I
that.
don't know what the board's feeling is, but,
Nope.
all right.
Okay, so this is tabled.
So we'll table that one. So next is library.
That's for, it's a part-time position. It's not gonna have the same ramifications as the other. I go ahead and approve it. I mean,
I'll second that
I
one.
agree,
so many,
so you're making the motion to approve?
I make a motion to
You're
approve
seconding
the
it?
library
All in favor? Aye?
So in other words, we're sending that along,
to the budget committee.
That'll go to the budget committee.
Okay,
When we,
yep.
and then the presentations will happen there. Okay.
All right, next, welfare.
Please. I know one of the things that we discussed at the last meeting was taking out 10 of those hours
We did.
and that to the right and changing that up. Which I didn't have a column in here reflecting that, but the annual,
The updated form does reflect that.
my form doesn't reflect it.
The
form-
one I gave you.
I understand that. My form doesn't reflect it. So what I looked at is the amount of money that we put forth into welfare, what our expenditures, et cetera, are on the welfare lines. And honestly, I don't see a justification for 20 hours on welfare, so I cut that back to 10 hours on welfare for a total of $11,180 based on a 10-hour week with COLA and potential merit raise. I did the FICA out based on that, the Medicare in the final column. I know it's kind of rudimentary. I was working on all of these over the weekend trying to look at all of them. The training budget, cutting the electric, I mean, 2018 year to date, $853. It had been requested $6,000 in 2018. Drop that down to 3,500. The expenditure is only 853. I say we drop it down to 2,000. For the 19 request for heat assistance, there's been nothing expended in that. I suggest dropping that down to 5,000. The rent and mortgage was requested at 18,000. We've only expended 9,076. I suggest dropping that to 12,000. The food, medical, everything except mileage. The only other thing I changed was mileage because the chief's getting new cars by the end of the year, so I figure we're going to use those vehicles for transportation, so there's no reason for anyone using their POVs. So the new total budget for welfare would be $36,325.27.
Does the welfare director have a copy of this proposal?
Not what she's just listed off. I have mine.
Do you have another one for her? Or?
I guess my questioning would be, or my statement would be, we are not granted acceptance of a potential vehicle until after the first of the year. It's still a very big unknown. We did not budget appropriately last year, and this, I say we, and that's the entire town. You'll see, even just with the few presentations that you've had so far, you've seen an increase in mileage. We did not anticipate the town vehicle being utilized for a different personnel. Otherwise, the mileage would have been reflected in that sense town-wide for this current year. We base our budget off of the current day and not what rumored might happen at the end of the year. And although we'd like, chances are with 3 potential vehicles, it's still a rumored unknown at this point.
Excuse me. Can I ask the chief on the vehicles when the date is?
Yeah, I'm okay with that, Andy.
Chief, what's the date that we're supposed to be getting the new police cruisers readied for the road and the others will be stripped? And
I don't have a date from Ford yet. I just have the build date. That the deadline date for the build date was September 21st. So I don't have, that was your order end date, was September 21st.
And roughly how long?
Ford has told me January.
January.
Okay.
I guess this was a year or so ago, this was a 32-hour position. So I mean, I guess I'm concerned because if we keep cutting back, we've already cut it back to 20 hours. So I mean, and it was 32 hours. So I mean, that's one of my concerns. Welfare is one of those lines that you have to have it available.
And it was available on an appointment basis, and that for quite a while. And that's your background and everything also is in welfare. And when the position was created again or revisited, and that it was revisited under an intake clerk, and that you had the background in welfare, and you had said that you would handle all of the.
Well, I can do training, but I mean, if the amount of work that I've got going on, I mean, it'd be very high. Plus, it'd be a conflict for me because if they have to appeal. I mean, we've got a lot of other things going on. I mean, just the final expenses issues that come in.
I mean, to cut a little bit of money here or there and discuss tonight is, I could see that, but almost cut the budget in half.
Well, part of that's already.
Notice to that department head, I think, is pretty hard to put him on the spot to say what is this going to look like.
I only had the weekend to kind of, look at all of this. So
I think it's great to propose something, but I think
and
that
that's
not
fine.
giving adequate.
That's all I'm doing.
I mean,
is proposing
how can you almost cut a budget in half and expect somebody who I don't think had any idea that this was coming tonight to be able to really give us any answers on what it's going to affect?
$10,000 of it, I think, was the amount that was already cut.
Was reallocated back
to another. So I mean, it's really
$10,985.
yeah. So $11,000.
I have a decrease from 2018 to 2019 of $8,325.
I mean, it's
welfare's budget is one of those that, per RSA 165, you have to provide for your poor.
and we are providing. It's just that what the amount that we're expending, and what is what's you want to appropriate and everything it's a lot more. I mean, there's been no heat. We've
had a very mild late winter.
The beginning of this year, January, February, March?
Stratford Cap has had a second round of funding this past spring. You can't guarantee that that's going to happen again.
So I think, and from my limited understanding of this, because I asked some questions last year, and a lot of these are budgeted, but fortunately aren't spent because of the welfare director finding other avenues to get that money.
Which takes time.
So if we weren't going to other agencies to provide that service or recommending people to go to other agencies, we would have to
Okay,
cover
so
that.
why don't we table this too, and then let's come up with a number of actual people who have applied, and that we don't have names, but we can have the numbers of how many people come in, how, you know, etc. over the course of
I
the
have
last
14 cases currently this year.
for the year.
To date.
So
I mean, part of it is the
That's not just people that have come in wanting an application. That's people that have received assistance. I do not keep track number-wise of how many people obtain an application.
right.
I can't do that. I'm not keeping track of how many people have obtained an application, dropped it back off to me, and failed to comply with the other requirements that are needed.
a lot of welfare is like doing research
Mm-hmm.
because where the town is a fund of last resource. The goal is so that we don't spend our town money because we don't want to spend our taxpayer money.
Right.
So part of the goal is, okay, can we put them in a shelter? Can we put them here or there? Can we send them to Community Action for Fuel? So can we do anything else? But that takes a lot of time other than just writing a voucher. So if we're writing vouchers, yeah, we're spending more town money. But we're not really doing the best we can for the taxpayers. And I
I mean,
think that's what...
if you look at 2016's budget, there was almost $130,000 for welfare.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2017, the following year, expended was only $29,000.
Mm-hmm. And we had somebody who was almost
I
full-time,
only took
32
the
hours.
position in September of 2017. I don't.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying, I mean, there's $100,000 difference in a year.
Saved quite a bit of money over
Right,
And
a
we-
short
Right.
time.
right.
And we, like I said, the last time the position was almost full-time, and we've also been able to recoup some money, which I think is important too.
But I think part of that saving is due to research being done.
Right, and I agree with that, because when we get to outside appropriations, I've got this marked up, because I've got some concerns with that, as far as how they, you know, how we hand it out and how they provide the services, so.
So are you proposing to take the 10 hours and adjust it to reflect 20 hours into the admin assist line?
Well, that's my...
No, 10
Yeah.
hours in the welfare, and then the 10 hours that was felt, I guess, that you needed an assistant for would be, so
That's
20 hours
different.
a
That's
week.
a different
Yeah, that's a
budget.
totally different budget.
So
I
she's proposing to
budgeted
cut
for,
20 hours.
so
She's
you want to
cutting it in
cut
half.
10 hours off of my salary
Off the
completely.
welfare.
Are you
Out of the
adjusting
welfare.
it into her line?
No, cutting.
So you're demoting from my approved 30 hours down to 20.
I'm cutting the welfare budget for what seems like to me frivolous spending.
I
And that-
understand what
to
you're
cut
saying.
that back,
I'm
so-
asking where you, so I've proposed 20 hours in welfare's budget to be the welfare director.
Mhm.
And there's 10 hours associated with the admin assistant.
No, there's 20 hours for welfare and then 10
It-
hours for...
This is two
She's saying
separate,
she wants
there's
to
two
cut-
separate budgets.
Correct.
Two
You're
separate budgets.
So what,
You're saying that you want to take the welfare and cut it down to 10 hours a week.
Correct.
What are you doing with the additional 20 that I've been approved at?
because their position is currently 30
my
hours
position
a week.
is
Approved
30
that.
hours.
Well, maybe,
So she's cutting
maybe
10
have
hours
Heather
out of
look,
it.
maybe
Yes.
have Heather look.
So her budget would not only go up the almost $12,000 total salary. That's
Mhm.
salary.
I didn't say I was
FICA
gonna
and
pass, I
Medicare.
just said maybe have her look at it. I'm
That's-
just saying,
So you're really looking at $24,000 more in her line.
But, wait a minute. We should be,
Yeah,
the
why
time
would-
that's spent on welfare should be in the welfare budget.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, if we're spending 20 hours, it needs to be in the welfare budget. If we're spending 20 hours on welfare time,
Correct.
and if we're spending 10
but I don't,
hours,
Right, and I understand that.
but
I'm
I don't
asking
see
where
in
she's
here
putting the extra.
that there's 20 hours worth of work a week, 52 weeks out of the year.
but you've seen a drastic decrease from when this position was started and what was being spent,
Because it was 32 is what I'm getting at.
In the hours,
32
and money
plus.
being given out because of,
telling somebody
Ah.
to go to Wakefield, or, I'm just
Because of
asking the
research
That's not
being
how
done.
my office operates.
I'm just asking the question. I mean, I look at this and I'm saying that looking at what the expenditures are and looking at the requests and that, that's my feeling. I think it,
And I understand what you're saying, Erin, but I mean, like, it's more just than telling somebody for what. We had somebody who was an individual the other day that unfortunately was facing becoming homeless. That wasn't a good situation. So Danielle worked very hard with them to come up with a list of resources and apartments and subsidized apartments because her income just didn't meet it, and she was abandoned, basically. An elderly person probably spent 4 or 5 hours, and she's been working with this individual for a month and a half. Made resource calls to Social Security, made every resource that she could. Then came in and said, well, what do I do with them? So then I sat down with them for a couple hours. That's the kind of stuff that, it doesn't show up on, we haven't spent $1 on them, but we've spent a lot of time on them. And that's the kind of
well,
stuff,
write that up.
that's the kind of stuff that takes the time. And then they
Write
call
up,
back and
write
say,
up the actual hours that are put in. Do we have a time clock that we clock in under welfare and then clock in under town administrator?
oh,
Or administrator assistant, sorry.
I mean, I don't clock in under that.
No,
so-
not you, but is there a way of tracking the time that's actually spent?
I mean, it would, I guess we could.
well, I
look
also
at-
think we're mixing up two things. So, I mean, part of the proposal is to basically cut the time spent on welfare in half. And then the other part is to reduce some of the amount of money we're setting aside for
Mhm.
assistance. So there's two
Right, there's
two parts of this.
Right.
So do we want to table this so that they can digest it and bring it back at the next meeting?
We can. When does the budget committee want the budgets?
November
Yeah.
1st.
I don't have my
For
calendar.
The
the
19th.
first one is the
They've requested them
19th of
for November
October.
19th.
October 19th, and we're only done the 15th.
So it's just,
Just under the wire.
yeah. I mean, quick look at this, my personal opinion at this point is looking at what was, I think cutting the 20 hours to 10 hours is going to end up costing us more money in the long run, but I would not support that. With the input from the welfare director, I would maybe entertain cutting down some of the assistant money that's set aside based on what was spent, if we think we can do that and not get in trouble. But
I would caution you too, though. There's two things in a town budget, and I will say this when Pat speaks. We have to maintain the poor and we have to maintain the roads. So keep that in mind. So, I mean, we can cut this budget, if somebody comes in with a heart condition and they need a lot more medication, and we have to take care of it, so just keep that in mind.
I just think we need to look at places to cut, so.
so was the consensus of the board to table this?
I'm not ready.
I mean, I just know we're
I
playing
know,
it close to the
I
wire. Not
understand
not
that, but I
I'm
mean,
saying we need to rush, but I'm just saying
Yeah, because I mean,
we are cutting it close.
I understand that. I
And
mean,
we
it's-
still have a
it's-
lot of budgets to go through tonight.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, but everything is not, in the budget presentation I got, is not clean. I mean, it's still showing, I'm still showing that her assistance in her,
Yeah, we gotta put it in.
Well, that's what
It's
I'm
in my,
saying.
it's in my budget, you're gonna hear
well,
about
yeah,
it.
I understand that, but it's still showing here. So basically what we're getting is not a clean budget,
We
so.
can fix that.
All right, so we're tabling this?
This, just to clarify your question, Andy, this bottom corner
58.
was showing, because the original request that you received had the salary line
Right.
as I was stepped into the position as. I didn't want the confusion of, well, gee, her number changed on salary, where did it go? That's why I left this in here, to explain that this,
Well, I'm comparing apples, what I see here versus what,
So the bottom line of your request is what? Can you say it?
$58,071.
so in the.
So if you look at the packet we got in that paper clip,
Yep.
that's the
Yeah.
updated one where they took out that line.
Too many pieces of paper in front of me.
Yeah, that's,
Right there.
so the budget request is actually, yeah. So it's actually down from the 2018 budget to the 58,071. It's down 14% when you take that out. So it's 58,071.71. So it's a decrease of $8,324.46.
All right, so are we gonna table or are we gonna?
I want to digest it. I mean,
Okay.
I mean, this
Well-
just came tonight,
Right.
so.
All right, so next is emergency management. Comments from the board?
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve that.
Second it.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. All right, next up is fire. Comments from the board?
The only thing I have a problem with is paying for fire hydrants that don't work, so. Which I've had a problem with for 20 years, so. I just don't think that, I don't think that we should be paying for something that we can't utilize. I mean, then we're paying for domestic water at the fire station because you can't fill a fire truck there, correct? Because the hydrant system won't support it.
We can fill the fire at the station, but we can't fill it off the hydrant in the yard because
Yep.
it sets off the alarms. We get chastised.
So basically, if there's anything north of, say, the railroad tracks, if there's a fire in Milton, we're on our own because the hydrants are useless. And then you go up past Newt High School, the hydrants are useless. It just, thus the capital improvement plan, so.
Just for clarification, this is something that was an issue the very first night I became fire chief, and I was ordered by the Board of Selectmen to pay the hydrant bill. Because it was.
I refused to pay it.
It was an ongoing issue for years.
Basically, I had asked to get what we're getting for hydrants. I mean, they said there was 44 hydrants, and they was charging us $4,400. Well, better than half of them are basically useless. You can go stand on a hose and shut the water off. So, you know, I don't know. We're just pouring money into an empty bucket. It's nothing. I mean, I know it's small chump change, but it's, you know, I don't know how we get the message out there that they got to do something. I mean, from the pump station north, I mean, you have 750 gallons at the pump station. Well, the pump does 750 gallons a minute. From there north, there's absolutely no water. If you had a structure fire, you could not use those hydrants. They'll do you no good. So it's
I will say that the new maintenance person is doing a great job with maintaining the accessibility during the winter. He plows those things out every day, and that's something that was also an issue in the past. They were never taken care of that way. So.
But they've been flushed in 4 or 5 years either, so.
Different points.
But in light of that, I won't hold it up over that, but I guess it should be duly noted.
Should we leave it in there and then maybe say we're not going to pay until they're flushed, and as soon as they're flushed, we'll pay?
Well, that's a state law. As an RSA says they have to be flushed twice a year, and there's an RSA that covers that. So, I make a motion we accept the fire department budget with my objections.
With your stated.
And just for clarification, we probably should add the total number to the motions, just so there's no confusion.
451271.
Yep.
All right, I'll second that. Any discussion?
Are you hearing any?
Well, I'm asking before I take roll call.
I'm good with it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next up, outside appropriations.
On the first one, Stratford County Community Action Program. I appreciate what they do. I think they're very generous, but I still think that they should at least have a time when they can meet with Milton residents.
You want them to come here as well?
Come here. I mean, because they won't answer their phone when people call looking for assistance. So.
I have got them on the phone, I will tell you that.
What's that?
I can get them on the phone.
Well, I guess they're screening it because the people that are calling me aren't happy. So I think that, you know, if we're going to give them $7,250, that they could, you know, make it, you know, whether it's once every 2 weeks, they have office hours here for.
I could ask them to do office hours here and tell them we can give them a place to meet confidentially.
Right, and I mean that's. I mean,
they used to meet. They used to do that. I will tell you that. But I have no. I can get a hold of them whenever. I've called them for a number of cases. Just different things, because I know you've expressed that to me directly.
Right, but I mean, you know, a lot of it's the elderly, and a lot of them don't have computers, and all they've got is their regular old landline. So, I mean, I supported 150%. I just think they need to give us, you know, be a little bit more.
I'm also aware of one of the cases that has called you, and
I know that, and
you,
I'm aware of it. I'm aware of the whole situation,
and
but it's.
You are aware that
I'm
that
not talking just the one. It's there's others. So it's just something that. I mean, then going down through. I mean, there again, the Cornerstone VNA. I absolutely have no problem with that one.
That's the one I think we finally got. Mm-hmm. We finally got their information the other day.
Yeah. So no, I mean, other than that, I'll approve the 25,902 for outside appropriations.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up, Budget Committee.
Make a motion to approve the budget committee.
I'll second it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next up, Economic Development Committee.
I make a motion to accept it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Do you want
so
the
we-
figures with those or just?
Oh yeah, we should have done that to be consistent.
You got them?
I have them if you wanted to make sure.
All
So
right,
everyone's on
budget
the-
just-
committee was
long as it-
2,600 and,
EDC is 2,500.
okay, so we've tabled tax collector, town clerk, and welfare.
Okay.
All right, so moving on. Department budget presentations for tonight. First on the list is planning and code.
Guess I'm doing that one. Okay. Put that somewhere. There. We don't have a PowerPoint for that one, but I will be doing that one. Salary. I think you have a copy of this salary. It's one person, full-time. Land use clerk includes 1.7 COLA and 2% merit, and that's 38,536. That person does do some overtime. 2335 required night meetings for land use clerk, average of 7 hours a month. 2 planning board, MCC and ZBA. I did talk to that individual about, it was originally 6 hours. She has had more hours, so we've increased it to 7 hours just because to be safe. And we're trying to be conservative.
Is that safe? I mean, after sitting through those ZBA meetings, I'm like, oh my God.
We expect next year that to be 7 hours, just because of some issues, but we do think 7 hours, and we're trying to be conservative. Salary part-time, code, the part-time code officer, building inspector, 1.7 in COLA, 29,042. The mandated FICA and Medicare, I'm brain cramp, sorry. Those 2 workshops for code enforcement officer and land use for procedures, updates, and RSAs and training. That's probably the most important thing we can ever send anybody to, because it keeps us from being sued. And it also keeps us current, and believe me, we need to do that. Recording of documents for Stratford County Registry of Deeds, that's $25. Contracted services, that includes the town planner's contract that we just approved tonight, Avatar, annual updates for building department software program, GIS, and the CIA, and that's $22,403. Notice ads, $200, public notices posted in newspaper. $200 for the Adobe Acrobat, that's on the land use clerk's computer. $75 for printing. $500.
Can I interrupt you a second?
Yep.
On the telephone, is that just because they're all under your line on the phone? It's not broken out by department? Okay, just checking.
$75 for printing for numerous permits, building, electrical, plumbing, etc. Land use books. We really need to get more books, so that line should be used. Supplies, $500. General office supplies for land use office, building inspector office, paper, files, folders, receipt books, ink cartridges. Ink cartridges, we go through a lot. As you know, we've been sending out more cease and desist letters because we've been trying to clean up some areas in town. And that's $250. Vehicle fuel, they put in a 0 and 0 because they're not, everybody's kind of in this state of we don't know where we're going to be with this vehicle situation next year.
So who's gonna put in the budget for fuel for these vehicles?
That's a good question.
Well, I mean, how are we supposed to go to the budget committee without those?
I will be, if we plan on getting the cars, I have some in my mileage line, if we plan on getting a car back, it's kind of up in the air right now, so that's where we are with that. You'll see it in a minute though. The town code enforcement officer, he does not get mileage, so that's not, so you'll see somewhere else. Equipment maintenance, $150. That's for 2 computers, 1 laptop, and printers. $150 for replacement of old equipment. That's in case of anything. Travel to land use clerk and town planner for workshops, travel to registry. So that's where you see the travel line. Membership and dues, $550 for New Hampshire health officers, New Hampshire building officials, International Code Conference, and miscellaneous subscriptions. And again, we need those. And unanticipated, we needed to have something in that line. So that budget for both positions and all the other fees, again, includes our town planner is $100,315, and that is up $5,270, 5.25%.
All right, comments from the board?
One thing I would like to see is, in all the budgets, is like 2018 to date, where everybody's at.
That's in the expenditure report?
Well, I know it's in the expenditure report, but it's awful easy just to go down another line right beside it.
Do you have that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got it right in the back of my book, and I've been trying to flip back and forth, but if it's in a line item right beside, the 2018 budget and 2018 to date, just to make sure, I mean, this one here, I really don't have any issues with it, it's just, but when we get into some of the bigger ones.
He's at this budget's at 71.718%.
Right, but what I'm saying is, we're going line by line.
Yeah.
We're doing a line item budget, which I'm sure that's what the budget committee is going to do. So is to go, if we've got it side by side, so just easier, just as we're zinging down through this to save us some time, because the next meeting we'll have to wing right through all of these, I guess.
Or we're going to have another meeting before the next meeting. Not that I want to do that.
No, but I'm
just
saying
we got to get through it.
If it's
we got to get it.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier if it's in a line item right beside 2018, the 2019 request. Where are we at the 2018 right now? I mean, that's going to give us a good benchmark of whether everything's right on. Am I worried about notices and ads for $200? No, but as far as everything else, we're going to get into some big ticket items, is to make sure that. In there again, I can flip back and forth to 6 pages, 8 pages of expenditures, but if it's
Right.
actual is right beside here.
Right. It's just going to change, but that's.
Yeah, I understand that, but it'll kind of give us where we're at now to make sure we're in the same ballpark. I mean, I looked through the expenditure report earlier, and I mean, there's some line items where I really got some serious concerns where we're at now. When we get to that tonight. So it'd be a lot easier if that's on our budget sheet, so we can just shoot right down through these and.
Okay. Sometimes I will tell you it's percentages. Sometimes you pay things once a year.
Well, I understand that, because we've gone through that 20 times. But I mean, if I'm looking through it tonight, I mean, I didn't mark this one up. I think I marked up the last one where I had a whole bunch of questions and we never got into it. So.
No questions?
Nope, okay.
Do we want to approve some of the smaller budgets tonight? Or do we still want a week?
No, this one here, I'm fine with this one. I'll make a motion to accept this one.
I second it.
Okay, so this is moving
All
on.
in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's a total of.
That is a total of 103,315 even. So that one's approved.
All right.
Okay.
And I do like in the bottom if you could put the increase, the 5.525 in.
Okay.
So, thanks.
Planning board.
Planning board.
I think we have the planning board chairman here to speak to that.
Okay.
I was just going to approve it.
Planning board budget for this year. We'll start off with training. We've budgeted $250. Last year, we've got 140 remaining in that line from this year. Public notices. was 400 last year, we're going up to 650 this year. We expended, this year, we're $343.80 over. Our proposed for next year is the public notices, where you have 5 public hearings, 1 CIP, 2 regulations, 1 master plan, and 1 zoning. The GIS remains the same, and our balance is still 500 for last year's. Printing, again, is just 100, and we have 100 still left in it. Supplies the same, basically the same. We've got still supplies, we have $30 left. Postage, 200, remains the same. We have spent just under 114. Mileage is still at $100 both, and miscellaneous is out. Miscellaneous, we have $83.50 left. Total budget is going from $1,750 to $2,000.
I'll make a motion that we approve that budget for 2000.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zoning board is next, I believe.
Yep, zoning board next.
Yep.
Larry Brown. This is a flat budget. We have the same $250 for workshops for ZBA members. That's still available. I do not have the amount used for the year for registry of deeds or any of the remaining topics. However, if you consider that the recording of notice of decision, half of the notices for public hearings, the copies of applications coming into the board, and the certified mailings for public hearings come back to the general fund. So if you consider that, we are very much flat with no changes. The major thing we did do is move up to the certified mailings as we have been busier, and the members' hours have increased, but we're holding even on our costs. That's a volunteer hour job.
I make a motion to go ahead and accept the zoning board budget for $1,500.
Second it.
All in favor?
Yo.
Aye. Conservation's next.
Steve Penn. So this budget is the same as was requested last year. And it's pretty much all the same justifications, but we do have 2 new members on the Board of Selectmen, so ask whatever. If I do a poor job of explaining, just feel free to ask more. So training is exactly that. We have 2 one brand new member and 1 relatively new member. This is just to pay the fees for attending the educational conferences that they may wish to attend. I know Wayne Sylvester has gone to 1. Andy Ross and I don't, he's just joined, so whether, he might have missed it for the year actually. But for next year, that would certainly be possible, and it's actually a good thing for the rest of us to go to keep abreast of things, but we usually don't. Legal defense, this should really be turned into a revolving fund that doesn't go away, because our legal spending is our biggest spending, but it's peripatetic. So one year we might spend an enormous amount of money, and then we'll go for a long time and we won't spend anything. So having it as a budget item is nice, but we really need to move it to become a revolving fund. Professional services. The biggest chunk of this has traditionally been the water testing, which is done with the Milton NH through TPPA and then to us. and that's usually a bit over $1,000. The rest of the money has been for contracted work, mostly to Stratford Regional Planning Commission to do our ordinance updates and our master plan updates, and produce maps from GIS data and update the GIS map layers. There's other stuff, though, that would fall into professional services. So we just got an estimate from McEnany Survey for $5,500 worth of survey work, which actually we'll be hopefully doing this year. But you know, all this stuff.
What about monitoring?
Monitoring is covered by the conservation fund. Yeah. So we have another pot of money, which is actually we have a conservation fund, which is actually 3 separate funds, and we're relatively flush in there, and we're very careful with that money. But the legal spending has been killing us. The problem with the conservation fund, I'll just slip it in now, is that it's funded exclusively through the land use change tax. So when somebody takes land out of current use to be developed, we get 50% of that. So that means that in boom times, when there's a lot of land coming out of current use, which is a sort of semi-conservation status, then we have money going into that, and otherwise we don't. And we have had virtually nothing going into that fund for the last 10 years. Yeah, so it's a pot of money, and it's a nice pot of money, but it could be eaten away by just 1 or 2 projects. So it needs a funding mechanism, and that's not our job here, but a lot of that expense would be considered professional services, so it would be nice to be able to offload some of it. Printing, we have thought of using, well, in the past we've done some programs for the public which we needed to advertise, and that printing has mostly been to send out a mailing. It's remarkably expensive to send out a mailing. We do as much as we can actually through Virginia, working through Moose Mountain Regional Greenways, who can use MailChimp, which gets to people through their email addresses, but that's only good if we have their email addresses. So we do have a database, NMIG has a database, which we have secondary access to, but if we were going to do another program, we'd be spending at least that much, and we haven't spent it this year, and but it's, we think, best to keep it in there in the event that we do. If it goes back to the general fund, it's not a big deal. Supplies, we put that back in last year because we found that after we took it out, we actually spent some money. So we put in a very nominal amount of money for office supplies. Postage relates back to the printing. That is, if we print something and we need to send it out, that's going to be the postage. So again, we haven't done that this year, but it might happen. Membership dues is the actual expense of the organizations that we pay for membership to. And those are the Society for the Protection of New Hampshire Forests, Moose Mountains Regional Greenways, the Three Pond Protective Association, and the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And then we just have $1 in miscellaneous to preserve the budget line.
All right.
Make a motion to go ahead and approve the Conservation Commission budget for $6,123.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Next up, Town Administration.
Let me. Chief, would you mind? Thank you. Appreciate your help. Great. Okay, to start with, the first line is full-time salary, which includes 2 people. It is myself, which is town administrator, typically a contract, and then the bookkeeper. Both of us, I've asked all the other department heads when they presented their salary or their budgets, who's eligible for benefits. In my budget, there are 2 people, myself and the full-time bookkeeper. So you'll see that come out next week or in 2 weeks when we do the budgets. So there's my salary, and then there's the bookkeeper's salary. Half the year it's broken out that she would be eligible for merit and cost of living increase. I do not get that because it's built into a contract. Part-time salary, that is, we put the administrative assistant back in that line, as we talked about earlier tonight. That was in that line a couple years back, and it's 10 hours a week at rate, the 20.74 hours, $74 an hour for 26 weeks, and then a potential COLA and merit increase. There's no insurance or benefits or overtime for that position. Again, that position is a part-time line. There is no benefits for that line. Salary elected, that's you guys. That's where the Board of Selectmen falls. And there's 3 selectmen at 2310. I didn't put any change in there. I didn't hear from anybody they wanted that change, so I'm having to assume you're comfortable with that salary or that stipend for your different times. I know boards have said increase that. Other times they've said no. I heard no news is good news, so I just went with it. FICA.
Decrease it if you want. I don't care.
I'm not gonna be here, so yeah.
If that's why you're sitting up here, you're sitting up here for the wrong reason. But.
I would. It's more volunteer work for most people, but okay. FICA and Medicare are reflected from the town administrator, bookkeeper, administrative assistant, and the Board of Selectmen, and the same thing for Medicare. Training. The training line, I personally think, is very important for everybody involved in these lines. In the 2018 budget, we requested $900. This year, we're requesting $1,109. This year, we've expended $1,350. Part of that is because I paid for budget committee members to go to training. That's now coming out of the budget committee line, so that should reduce that cost. The Primex annual conference in May, budget and finance workshop, $90 for 4 people to go. So that would also include if you guys wanted to go. I know some of you chose to and some of you didn't. But I don't know who's going to be on the Board of Selectmen next year because Andy keeps saying he's leaving us. So I need to budget for that. New Hampshire Municipal Association, and we need training for our bookkeeper. She needs to be trained on a regular basis. Legal services. This year we really need to increase that. As you know, we've had a lot of legal action that we've been taking. We've been increasing the cease and desist. The focus of this board is to increase and improve the look of downtown, and that requires legal action. And that's one of the areas that we've really been spending money. We have a budget, 2018 budget was $33,500, and as of now, as of last week, we've expended $32,146. So, we've also had some highly sensitive cases, so I need to increase that to $45,000. It's not something I really relish doing, but Registry of Deeds, same. Nothing extended year to date, but I do expect that if you do a property sale later on in the year, that we will be doing some registry work there. Contract services. 2018, we budgeted $58,145. This year, we need to budget, I'm looking at $64,501.
What is contracted services?
Okay, it's all broken out. And we've expended $51,140 as of to date. I know you were looking for that number, Andy. Back Bay, that's our IT contract provider. That's $953 a month, plus $500 additional costs. That's $1,193. Atlantic Broadband, which is our internet. Melanson Heath is our auditor. That goes up to $19,000 a year. Stonehill, that contract service, our contracted finance director, Joanne. She is going to be moved down to only 8 hours a week for 52 weeks a year. She does a lot of stuff remotely. She's been texting me throughout the meeting, actually giving me some answers to different questions, financial questions as they've come up. And so that's Stonehill at $55 an hour for 8 hours a week to 52 weeks. We used to pay her more. Seacoast Business Machines, photo printer scanner machine, that is $840. American Security Fire Alarm, $450 annual fee, plus additional $150 service call is $600. Northeast Security System, burglary, is $204. Harris Software Support, Munismart, that's our software that we run all our accounts payable, payroll, everything, $8,051. And Crystal Rock Water is $2.39 a bottle a week, so it's $270. So that's our contract services.
When the contract services from when Atlantic Broadband bought out MetroCast, did that change?
They're supposed to be renegotiating. They have not yet. But it was supposed to be renegotiated. So this is the line.
Definitely going to be renegotiated.
It should be renegotiated because we should.
Stink.
Well, yeah, but it has.
Well, I'm serious. You know, it's killing everybody in town. I mean, what do you do? It's not just us here. It's everybody at home. I mean, you kind of.
I get calls, and we've had them in here to talk to.
I'd love to have them come in and talk. How they're going to improve our service in town.
I think that the gentleman's number is on our website.
No, I'd like to see him sit right here and.
Okay, legal notices is the next line. Last year we budgeted $900, nothing expended year to date. That's for employment. 2019. Our request is $800. Employment ads, RFPs, public hearing notices for ordinance and other legal requirements, and we're decreasing that due to usage. So I'm getting to cut something, which is good. Professional services, $13,805 is what we asked for last year. We've expended $1,878 expended year to date as of 9/27, so we're decreasing that as well. Selectmen's, in that line goes the selectmen's recording clerk at $75 a meeting, minimum 24 a year, not including additional workshops or special meetings. GoDaddy $600. Website virtual town and city, that's $4,000 a year. Background checks for new employees, hopefully in my department we'll only have 2. Maybe we'll get none. We kind of hope to keep people around. Retention is a good thing for everybody, but we need to do that. That's $47. Miscellaneous unknown professional services. Audits, investigations. Last year we had an audit that cost us, $5,000. We were able to decrease it because decreased background checks. We didn't have the turnover we had, and we moved physical exam costs because they really go to government building budget for their personnel. We were able to take theirs out and put it in their budget, so that was able to be decreased as well. Street lighting. Street lighting. Last year we over budgeted that by we budgeted $18,000. We've already hit the increase last month in our budget, so the average so far is $1,500. That year we've done some decreases or expected cost-saving methods for this year. So far we've spent $10,313. This year we're requesting $10,720.
Will PSNH help us with LED?
Well, we've done some cost savings already. I think we've put those lights in around town. That's one of the programs we put in already this year. That's what that big truck was out there.
Well, I understand that. I know they did the buildings, but did they do street lighting?
I think Pat worked on... No, they didn't do that. Okay. No.
Will they do it?
I don't know.
They did Somersworth, they did Rochester, so I don't know if they...
We can look into it. Something to work into. But we were able to cut the cost because of the way we budgeted last year, and we've already had the increase. We can ask them if they'll do something. Water. We needed to keep $1 in that line to keep the line active. So.
That's water for the building?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to pay for it?
Water for the building. We don't get a bill.
How do you get away from paying? Every other government building has to pay.
I think it's in his line.
Not that I want to pay, but
I pay the water.
He pays the water.
aren't you a good boy?
Yeah, it's in his line. Hey, he takes it. Telephone. The budget last year was $5,438. We've only expended $1,582 to date. That we're expecting this year. We're budgeting $2,900. We're averaging $175 a month, $2,100. We have to budget for Teletechnic hardware repairs, replacements of $800. Matter of fact, I had an issue today with my network line coming in. But when he was in there, he said, you know, those kinds of things, we're starting to see some of these lines having problems, so we really need to have that $800 in there. These
Teletechniques?
What?
Teletechniques?
Yeah.
Wayne?
What?
Wayne from Teletechniques.
I don't know what the gentleman's name is, but our equipment is getting older, and we need to be able to handle this. Printing copies. 2018, my budget was $9,541. As of today, we've spent $4,616. Basically, we're expecting the same thing. Annual town report and voting guide, because we print both, is $4,404 out of my budget. Purchase orders, we pay $300 for those. Town envelopes, mailing labels, other town office printed, supplies needed, $2,000. Miscellaneous business cards for town administrator, bookkeeper, you guys. Does not reflect any additional printing costs, so that's a level funded item. Supplies. So far we spent $3,089. 2019 request $4,690. Just general office supplies, paper, pens, binders, files, etc. Toner for bookkeeper. Town meetings supplies, binders, and other supplies. We have to have the big binders. Postage machines, inks, labels, etc. Portland paper, maintenance supplies, paper products, cleaning supplies, trash bags, kitchen and restroom supplies. Also, sticky notes, those kinds of things. Decrease in line due to bank deposit slips adjusted to reflect treasurer's budget. Those are going to go into that budget. So we're able to cut that a little bit. We're looking to cut anywhere we can. As we're very aware that the budget committee is on a cut mode. So we're trying to cut any place we can, but there's only so much we can do in budgets. Postage. 2018 we asked for $2,064. We've expended $992 as of last week. We're requesting $1,423. The post office renewal fee for our mailbox is $198. Post office for administration, mail, and outgoing checks, approximately $2,500 a year. Reflects a $640 decrease based on usage. We mail 2,500 items a year. So, again, we cut that. Vehicle fuel. We're trying to keep that $1 line. Again, if we get a car, that will change. That's the only thing.
Yeah, but we need to change that now.
I mean, then we would go to, we were using the WEX system. Right now the WEX is not cheaper. From what Pat's using the state system, is that correct, Pat?
Yeah, the state's $2.10 a gallon for unleaded. WEX is $2.64.
So it depends.
I mean, I just don't want to, if we're going to have a vehicle next year, you need to have some money in all three of those lines.
Vehicle maintenance, vehicle.
Yep. I mean, hopefully the maintenance isn't bad, but the registration, the fuel's probably going to be the big one. I don't know what.
Depends on their mileage.
How many miles do they average a year? I mean, you pay mileage. Is that something we should be able to get that number, right?
We should be able to get that number. I mean, vehicle fuel, I think I don't think we have to budget a lot. We're talking about some trips here and there to conferences, but then back and forth to the bank is not that expensive.
Well, it's not that expensive, but what we're paying out now in, you know, mileage, so, I mean, just want to make sure that there's something in all three lines that,
1,800?
Well, last year, we had what? We had 1,000.
Yeah.
The year before that, was 500. Of course, I don't know what was spent, but
Is that my line or is that my vehicle fuel line?
vehicle fuel.
Yeah, I think,
I mean, that's something, I don't want to beat this to death, I'm just saying down, so when we
Yep,
present
I'm
this,
all
there's
for
something in there, because we know it's not going to be,
600.
it's going to be more than $1.
the mileage was 1587.
Current year,
The
in your
c-
line.
Oh, that's, no, we're not talking about my line, we're talking about the car, if we use the car. Town car, like the back and forth treasurers or,
He asked how many mileage, how much mileage?
oh. But I mean, we've got to take everybody who could use the car.
Right, it's not
Right,
just,
but yours just to date would
Yeah, but I mean,
be 16.
whatever, I mean, that's, I don't
how
want to
about if we put, in vehicle fuel, we put 800, 1,000? I'm just asking Pat. 1,000?
Fire department's $3,000 for 2 vehicles every other day around town and once every couple weeks to Concord, maybe.
So, yeah, so I think is 1,000 good then, or?
I think you're a little low, but
1,200. I don't want to go too high.
I'm not going to do this one tonight anyway, so you can probably figure it out for the next.
Yeah, but I'll just say roughly, I'll look at it, okay. Vehicle maintenance, 500. Because there's a mechanic in town who takes care of that car. All right, and vehicle registration, we'll have to look at that cost. Equipment maintenance, it remains the same. Computer and office equipment needing repair service not covered by the contract. If something were to go, that's a 2,000. Equipment purchase, $2,300 remains the same. $175 already spent this year. Computer and office equipment, printer, monitor, hardware, drive, keyboard, mouse, calculator. I mean, a couple things they needed to fix today just on my computer. Equipment lease. This would be the leaf funding for the rental of the copier. This is for the insurance for the funding, and the Pitney Bowes rental postage meter. Postage meter is not included last year, so that's why it's gone up. 2018, it was $2,268. So far this year we spent $3,028. So the request has gone up to $4,011. That's the increase. Mileage and travel. This would be, I think. So far this is for me, I think. Yes, it is me. It's my mileage and travel budget was $750. $857 has been extended January to June. 2019 it was $1,000. Workshop, conferences, registry, D travel. Obviously, I didn't have access to a town vehicle. The reason I still request it sometimes is because it wouldn't make sense for me to drive here, pick up a town vehicle, then drive to wherever it's going. Sometimes if I am, it's halfway through the day and I go to a meeting, then I take the town vehicle. And you guys still let me drive the town vehicle. That's kind of an inside joke. But that's why it's in that line. Or if I'm going to a 3-day conference and the question would be, do I take the vehicle? Does the treasurer take the vehicle? Who takes the vehicle if we have one? So that kind of thing. Membership and dues. 2018 budget, 4288. $3,758 expended to date. 2019 requested $4,489. Foster's newspaper is $300. New Hampshire Municipal Association and Managers Association, that's how we get all the benefits from the Municipal Managers Association. We call legal inquiries. That's $39.60. The other membership is $30. Staples Advantage Program. I don't know, that's department heads all agreed we'd join Staples Advantage Program, and somehow I still have that. I thought we were going to share that bill, but I guess I have it again this year of $199. So that is $4,489.
How come we still get the Fosters? Nothing in it.
I don't read it, I don't know.
I know it's only $300, but what's the sense in getting it?
I think that it helps to check, if we are going to put a legal notice in it, I
Okay.
would want to check that.
Make
So,
sure it's-
Yeah.
it's the legal notices is what I would look for. What? And passings. Oh, the bids? Or passing a paper? Oh.
No, the obituaries.
Oh. But if the legal notice is what I was, employee functions, again, that's level funded at $200. Bank charges, $60 for overdraft, $15 in an account. Hopefully we do not recommended 4. That's been the recommended from our banker. Budget 2018, 625, 2019, 625, 538 is expended. Funeral files for employees, relatives, estimated 5 a year. Refreshment for joint meetings with state, county, local officials, $100. Plaques, certificates, board, commission members, 2 a year. Line request remains the same. So my total budget is up 7.46% from 285,324 to 308,322, and that increase. That of course I think one of the things you'll see is taking that 10 hours that was in that welfare line that really didn't belong on the welfare line, but for some reason it got lumped in there, and bringing it back to where it was, the administrative assistant line that had years ago been there. It also just costs FICA, Medicare, and increases them based on what we could. We did look at places
so it's really
we could.
not 7.46 increase.
No.
Because there's $10,000 that was in the budget. That's just like it's $10,000 roughly less is going to show in the welfare budget, and it's really not a decrease.
So it was a moval. It was a lateral move, but I had to move it to the right place.
Yep.
But that's where we are.
All right. Comments from the board?
I moved to table that one just because that's a lot of information.
Plus it's got to be
sit here.
adjusted by those.
Right,
Yep.
by the numbers for the
I'll work on the car numbers for the next time.
gas and.
But Andy, I did try to show you what we spent. We did try to say what was spent. So.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one.
Could I do debt services quickly? Because it's a one-page one. Oh, Pat's gonna kill me.
Sure.
It's one page. It's this one that says debt service. And then it's all Pat.
Go for it.
Then it's after this one, it's all you, Pat. Okay, this is debt service principal and debt service interest. I really don't get a lot of control over these numbers. Basically, they come from amortization tables and regular tables of purchases. Debt service principal, $64,573.69 for the trucks. 2016 International Dump Trucks principal. 2016 John Deere Grader principal, $22,451.45. Bond principal TAN. We need to keep $1 in that line if we're ever supposed to be going to issue a bond, a tax anticipation note, which is what that is. The fire truck principal purchase is completed, the Toyne one. Fire truck station bond principal is $147,415. Fire radio lease principal $26,671. $687.71. Sorry. Debt service principal $263,114, which is down from last year, which is always good. Debt service interest, 2016 International Dump Trucks interest, $5,761.90. 2016 John Deere Grader interest, $4,341.15. Toyne fire truck interest, purchase completed. Fire station bond interest, $68,403.07. Bond interest, fire station bond interest, I said that one first. Bond interest TANs, you got to keep 1,000 in that line in case we're to do that. Fire radio lease interests, $1,620.15, and unanticipated expenses, $18,000. Total debt services, $99,126.27, which is again a decrease from last year. And total general comes out of the general fund, $362,240.27.
I make a motion to go ahead and approve the budget for the debt services.
Second.
For 362, 240,
Oh,
27. Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next up, government buildings. Yep. Unless you want to start with one of the other ones first.
Okay. My full-time salary line is $101,728. That is 3 full-time people. That includes the cleaner for 40 hours a week. And it includes $8,000 for overtime for plowing and sidewalk cleanup. Government buildings salary part-time, $1. FICA, $6,308. Medicare, $1,476. Uniforms, $450. Contract services, $20,054. Professional services, $1. Electric, $9,600. Heat, $6,710. Water, $5,750. Supplies, $4,612. Postage, $10. Gasoline, $4,765. Building maintenance, $20,000. Cemetery maintenance, $5,000. On that $5,000, that does not include the big cemetery up in Milton Mills. That cemetery's around the town. There's like 35 or 40 of them that we hit off and on through the course of the year.
So these are the smaller cemeteries, correct?
What's that?
These are the smaller cemeteries,
Yeah.
not the recently acquired one. Okay.
Equipment maintenance, $1,000. Equipment purchase, $300. Equipment lease, $500. With a total of $188,266. That's down from $193,973 last year.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the government buildings budget for $188,266. With a question, wait a minute, can I take?
I have a question.
I have a question too, actually. Go ahead.
Cemetery maintenance. So the current 5,000 is for all the ones around town, but it doesn't include the one that we recently acquired. So how shouldn't we plan for that for this coming year, now that we
I think
have that?
I think that's a conversation that you're gonna have to have with the cemetery trustees. I'm not sure about that yet.
Which one did we acquire?
Milton Mills, the big
Milton.
cemetery on
The town cemetery.
Right, the big one, but
Yeah.
I thought that was under the, I was gonna say, that's gotta be under the trustees of the,
But aren't
But
they
if the
all
town owns
under
it.
the trustees?
All the cemeteries are under the trustees. About probably 18 years ago, they asked the Public Works Department, well, they asked me to be the sexton, just in name, so that they'd have a sexton for the trustees. Then they asked me to start doing those little small ones around because they didn't have people to do it. So it's taken off from there. We mow weekly the Union cemeteries. There's 2 of them up there. We have the Silver Street Cemetery we take care of. We have the Plymouth Cemetery that we're in there, in and out of there all the time. There's a couple on Dutch Road. So there's a bunch that we go to. Some up on Berry Hill, some on Jug Hill. So $5,000 used to be in the $20,000 maintenance line. It used to be a $25,000 line. Somebody wanted to establish that we were taking care of cemetery, so they moved it out, which makes it a little difficult to use up under the cemetery banner, because I pay for everything out of the salary line, out of the fuel line, and out of the supply line, and the maintenance line.
How does that work though with the Milton Mill Cemetery if people have perpetual care? How does that get separated from?
That's a question for the trustees. I don't know the answer to that question. I know that it's coming, but I don't know.
Right, and there seems to be a lot of discussion in, not necessarily an issue, but there is concerns with that cemetery over there. And I mean, I think we gotta address how we're gonna handle that.
And if you want my opinion, in my opinion, I see that the gentleman that's been doing that for all these years, since back in the 60s and 70s, is gonna retire. And nobody knows that cemetery other than him. I think that the cemetery trustees need to at least hire a part-time sexton to learn all the details of everything that takes place there. I mean, there's a lot to it other than just selling lots. You know?
Right, that's I guess that's my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who accounts for like the perpetual care?
That would be the trustees. They got to separate all that money. I mean, the town gets a small check for perpetual care out of these other cemeteries at the end of the year, which doesn't even come close to offsetting what we.
I mean, the old days, that's the way they did it when you paid for the perpetual care, but now it's.
So there's some discussion and some work that needs to be done there. It's not going to be something you're going to be able to jump right in and take over. You need those guys to learn what's going on and.
Right. But I mean, we've been fortunate that
we've been very fortunate.
An individual handle this for years and years and years, and it hasn't cost us anything.
Well,
the problem is there's nobody out there to do it anymore.
The $10,000 budget.
The volunteers aren't coming out to take over that position, and I can tell you that Mr. Catwick is there all the time. He's there on burials on Saturdays and Sundays. I mean, he has to be present for all this stuff. This is where you have to make, if the town's going to take responsibility for all the things in that cemetery, they're going to have somebody on the payroll, or they're going to have somebody that's going to be able to go there at any given time to do these things. I mean, you got a tomb there that you accept bodies. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on. Sounding of graves, laying out of lots. I couldn't do it. I don't know anything about it.
We have been doing some research. We've been doing some planning.
A discussion needs to be had, and a plan needs to be come up with, so that we can start this process of turning it over.
There is $10,000 in the budget already.
At the last cemetery trustees meeting, Mr. Catwick wasn't there. Heather brought in research that she had done looking at other towns and what they have and what their budgets are and everything. So it is something that's being worked on.
So where in the budget are they putting them?
Where's the 10?
I mean, if you look at like Alton has one full-time year-round and then one part-time seasonal. Just in that cemetery right there as you come into Alton. So
it's most of the time it's done under the DPW, Department of Public Works. But I mean, I gave Pat a copy of what my research said as well. I gave it to the trustees because they needed to see that. They've come up with a preliminary, but they want to talk again before they present their budget. But the cemetery does have a $10,000 budget. They're talking about increasing that.
So they're talking about putting it in their budget, not having anybody from government buildings?
No, that's not what they're talking about. No.
That's not what they're talking about. So I guess
they're talking about
increasing the budget, I think, so that they can hire, my understanding is so that they can hire someone to learn
and then some kind of stipend positioned of another town employee for some of it. It's going to be a discussion.
Lengthy. But Heather has been, did pull together a whole slew of numbers from a variety of towns to,
I had to start planning.
right, so.
So, I mean, I guess don't we kind of have to know that before we can make a decision on this budget? If there's a plan to adjust this budget accordingly, we all gotta be,
Yeah,
we all gonna
because
have to
they
have the
have their own
talks to be
budget
on the
right
same page.
now.
Go into the government buildings budget this year.
No.
I think the
The question
cemetery
is who's gonna
trustees.
I think that's a
supervise
bigger picture down the road. I mean, this is just a small,
Well, the question is, my only question is who's gonna be the supervising agent for this person?
The
these people?
trustees.
They're not, the trustees can't supervise because they're not a department head.
but
That's the
that's nothing
problem.
to do with the budget, right?
Yeah, because you're gonna, if you need another
Yeah,
person.
but this doesn't have to do with the government budget. That's
Well, whose budget are you gonna put it under?
That's the question.
That's what I'm saying.
police department.
Well,
He just looked at me.
Well, shouldn't the cemetery trustees put a budget together to start with, to get this thing rolling, and then if you wanna incorporate it into another budget later on, then fine.
Well, I mean, I think we're putting the cart in front of the horse here, and, you know, we probably ought to
have you
have.
talked to John Cadwick
That's what I'm
recently?
saying.
Because John's,
Right, I mean, he's on top of it, and,
John wants out, I mean.
well, I understand that, but I mean,
I think he's put in more than his time.
I 100% back that. I mean, but he's got to kind of guide us. He's the one that, you know, because Roger Lasky did it for.
But he's been talking about it for all year, I guess is what I'm
More
saying.
than that, it's been a couple of
Right,
years. but-
I mean, so, I mean, we keep putting it off, but here we are again.
Time to do it.
Budget season, it's the time to do it.
I just, I don't know. I guess I don't understand how you're going to be able to separate the perpetual care versus, you know what I'm saying? It's a big picture from.
Yeah, he has all them documents. He's got it all
I
separated.
think-
What's perpetual care money? What can be spent? What can't be spent? All those records are in place.
He's got a stipend. I mean, from what I talked to the trustees of the cemetery. There's two here, and they said, well, they want to give an employee of the town a stipend to handle some of the business part of that. So that would be the business part, what you're talking about.
Which isn't gonna be covered by perpetual care, or that's gonna have to be funded by.
No, you can't use perpetual care.
Can't use
for that.
Right, that's what I'm
You have to
saying.
You're gonna have to
You
raise
gotta have
appropriate
somebody
money.
there to answer the phone when they wanna buy a
Right.
grave. You gotta have
So
somebody
that's the
doing that.
secretary-
And
that's
we're
like-
gonna have to pay
Yeah,
for
the
that.
secretarial stuff that
That's
has
what
to
I'm,
be
that's what
done.
I'm saying. There's perpetual care money, yes, but that has nothing to do with.
That's
All
right.
that
That's
does
separate.
is flowers and flags and stuff. That's
Right.
it.
So that's separate. So that would be more the trustee's job. Then the answering the phone, that kind of stuff would be a stipend for somebody. Then, and we haven't figured that out. Then there would be the sexton role. So I mean, they've got it down, and I've got job descriptions actually from other towns and how they've worked it out. So I think we're further along than we think we are. But the question is, volunteers can't be department heads to supervise these people. They just can't. So where does this fall? That's my.
How do we put a number into the budget that's going to cover ourselves? I guess is where I'm at tonight.
They're having a meeting the day before they present to the Board of Selectmen on the 15th. I can tell you that.
So then at the 15th, we'll have that number.
Yeah, or the week before. You'll have a number the 15th. So
okay.
if it's decided to go in here, Pat doesn't know it yet, but if it's decided to go here, they'll tell you. If it's not going to go here, if it's going to go into, I don't know.
Yeah, but if it
He's the
goes in,
chief's budget.
if it goes into here, then it falls underneath him.
It does. If it goes in someone else's budget, we'll know. I don't know where they're going to put it. But we have to have, it cannot be like a volunteer. It has to be a department.
Right, I understand that. I totally understand that. But
So I guess that's what I'm saying. If we don't, I think we need to know that before we go forward with this particular. I mean, everything else looks fine. It's just that one line, or maybe it's going to affect the salary part-time line. I don't know.
Where's the $10,000 at currently?
That's
In the
out.
trustee budget?
It's in the trustee budget, but there's not a position attached to that,
Right.
so there's no supervisory authority.
So we'll table this till the 15th.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be under him. I mean, I don't know. He could have a whole new department. He's going to be.
If I understood John and the comment that he made to me, that they were gonna try to budget that out with their own budget to get it started and go for, well, I think it was a year or two, and then they were gonna try to hand it off to the town after they got it started. I thought that was the plan that I understood when I had a conversation with him, but I only had it with him, I didn't have it with the rest of the trustees, so I'm not sure exactly where they all stand on it at this time.
But if that's the case, you still have the supervisory role issue.
I
That
think
person
that in
couldn't-
that conversation that the trustees were gonna supervise their own, they're elected officials.
But they have to be it has to be a department head that's supervising, like if it's a full, part-time employee.
Well, I guess that's a conversation with them. I can't answer for them. I don't wanna overstep.
No, and they did put together a budget out of their minutes, which,
I
but John
can only
hasn't seen
assume
it.
what they're thinking right now. I don't
No,
really
I don't think anybody knows. I think John has to be part of that, and he wasn't at that meeting.
Right.
So I think it's only out of respect for him, but somebody who's done it for 30 years, that he should be part of that conversation.
Absolutely.
Or 40 years, or however many years he's done it. Probably before I was born.
All right, so we'll table this until we have that discussion with them to see where that lands. All right.
Is that a motion?
Wasn't gonna make a motion, I was just trying to get a consensus.
Yeah, I'm good with
Yeah.
that. Yeah, we need more information, definitely.
Solid waste.
Yep.
Salary line is $42,852. That includes $2,000 for overtime. Part-time line is $49,120. That's for 3 part-time employees. FICA is $5,703. Medicare is $1,334. Training is $600. Uniform $600. Contract services $9,800. Disposal $68,000. That went up $2,000 because we had a 3.5% increase in tipping fees this year. Rental is $1, and by the way, anything that's $1 in this budget that I read off, that's paid for out of the revolving account. Rental is $1, hazard waste removal is $1. Electric is $1,800, heat is $500, telephone is $654.
You got 1,700 on here for the electric.
Yeah, I
You
changed it.
to 8.
I changed it from the one you have probably.
To what is it?
I got 1,800. And I'll just tell you what I did really quickly is I went through all my electric bills because of the increase costs, and I wanted to know what we'd used for kilowatt hours the previous year. So I totaled up all the kilowatt hours and I used the 9.5 cents. So that's how I come to all of these, and I just rounded them up to the nearest 100 when I did that. Because I understand there's gonna be another increase about halfway through next year, and we don't know what that is yet. And I did the same thing, kilowatt hours for delivery, and it's like 17 cents for delivery per kilowatt hour. So I got all the kilowatt hours and times that by 17 cents. So let's see, heat was 500, telephone was 654, supplies was 1,305, postage 10, operating supplies 1, diesel fuel 8,000, equipment maintenance $1, equipment purchase $1, equipment lease $1, and permit and fees $1 for a total of $190,285, and that was up 10,000 from last year. And a lot has to do with the contract services, because now we are required for 2 inspections on the cap per state instead of 1 a year. And then you had your step increases, electric a little bit, and the tipping fees went up.
Pat, you said 190,285. I have 190,185.
What's
That's
that?
because of the $100 difference.
Oh, okay.
But also on the phones, it's a $2 difference. You got 652 on here. I just want to make sure the total is right.
That's what I got.
Did your phone go down?
Yeah, you got 652 on here too. You said 654. I mean, it's only $2,
Yeah.
but I just don't.
Okay, yeah, just
It should be
It doesn't matter.
654.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Anything else on that one?
You want to act on this one?
I'm good.
You got to make a motion on it because you got to
Come.
change the figure.
Plus $2.
So I'm gonna assume that $2 is this 190, 285 correct? With the 654? Or should we just check?
$287, right? The $2?
Well, I don't,
So it'd be 187, right?
Spreadsheet
190,
will add it in.
190,
So it'd
187.
be 287 if you
Yeah.
go by what you have.
190, 287.
190, 287.
alright, so I'll make a motion to approve the solid waste 2019 proposal at 190, 287.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Public Works. Full-time salary line is $284,750. This includes the 2019 step increase and the $45,000 overtime line. Part-time salary is $21,786. That includes a 2019 step increase, and that's for 30 hours a week. Salary elected, 66,302. FICA, 23,116. Medicare, 5,407. Training, 1,000. Employee testing, 2,000. Uniforms, 4,700. Contract services, 16,270. Professional services, $1. Electric, 5,500. Heat, 4,352.
On your electric, on this one, you get
5,000.
5,600.
My electric went up from 5,100 to 5,500. I did the same thing.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that
It's on the printed.
it's different
Yeah,
on
I
the
think I
printed.
changed mine after I did a spreadsheet on the electric.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's down 100. Okay.
So these are updated numbers. We did the spreadsheet the end of last week and this week. So we finally got it all together, and when I looked, what I had in there was probably more than I needed to, so I dropped it back to what the kilowatt hours
Okay.
said that I was gonna probably use. Telephones, 2,836. Supplies, 29,014. Postage, 10. Operating supplies, 117,900. Unleaded fuel, 7,000. Diesel fuel, 35,000. Equipment maintenance, 25,000. Equipment purchase, 500. Equipment lease, $1. Membership and dues, $1. And miscellaneous, $1 for $652,447. A lot of my cost this year was steel went up, so my cutting edges went up quite a bit. The price of motor oil went up, 60 cents a gallon, and we used quite a bit of that. And the good news is salt went down. Salt went down to $47 a ton, where it was 53 something last year, so we saved some money on that. And then I did add 5,000 to the maintenance line. I'm overspent in the maintenance line already this year. And we had one truck that went off the extended warranty, so we're paying for that one for the next year, so I did add a little more on that one.
Comments from the board?
That's a 5% increase, by the way.
Very good. So that's really good considering what you got here.
I make a motion to go ahead and approve the Public Works Highway budget at $652,447. Is that dollars?
I'll second it. Any discussion?
No, it's fine. I get 500, so it's not.
No, it was 100
okay, all right,
less.
that was
Yeah.
on. Okay, all right, I got it. Duh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Since it was easy math, I did it.
All right. That concludes the budget presentations for tonight. So next on the agenda, we have approval of minutes. I'll make a motion to approve the September 24th, 2018 minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up is administrator comments.
I wanted to thank all the department heads. Everybody's been working diligently on getting these budgets in. There've been a lot of long hours. Everybody's incredibly busy this time of year working on them. So I do want to thank everybody for that. It's busy. Again, it is a busy time. We're in the budget season, so people, please be patient. If you're calling and saying what's going on, that's what's going on, budget season. And everybody has worked very hard on that. I guess I also want to say happy birthday to somebody in the audience tonight. Yeah, happy birthday, Pat. Pat's birthday's this month. It's also somebody else whose actual birthday is tonight, so happy birthday, Chief. Thank you for spending your birthday with us. I think Daniel went out to get something, so we have cheese. I know you told me not to, but I did anyways, because you can't tell me not to. So we have cheesecake. I heard that's your favorite. So that's for after.
And we sing.
I heard there was a special. I heard that you had a special greeting the other day at a restaurant. Yeah, we can't do that here. But happy birthday, Chief.
Recording.
Well, we'll
Yeah, we're
finish.
not done.
Oh, okay.
So that's it for my administrator comments. And we will next be meeting, I think it's October 15th.
All right. Next, selectmen comments.
I'm good.
The only thing I have, and Virginia was kind enough to stay to help me just in case, is I went to the Casey Road Conservation Commission meeting for the Casey Road project last week. We met a very nice young man, Tyler Guftel, who is a Boy Scout who is working on a conservation project for the Horned Day Award. And it's, I guess, a prestigious award. Do you remember how many he said?
I don't.
It was a very small number that they actually give out every year. And he's going to be working on blazing trails, cutting in new trails up there on the Casey Road project, and also putting up educational, interpretive type signs. So when people go out, they'll know trees. I think he was going to do tree identification was one of the things. He talked about maybe the possibility of a beaver dam. I think it'll be a great asset out there on the Casey Road project. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does. So if anyone wants to help, I'm sure he'll be looking for volunteers to come out and help also. Anything else you want to add? Did I miss anything?
No, we're just very pleased that he wants to take that on because it'll improve the trails there. There already are some, but that will be an enhancement.
And that's all I have.
All right. I don't have too much tonight. Just thank everybody for their budget presentations and being patient. It's been a long night. So that's all I got. And that, I'll make a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Can you seal your minutes?
Oh, your minutes from before.
I rescind that motion to adjourn. You gonna second that?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we had, I don't have my stuff organized here.
30 and indefinite.
We had a non-public under 91A 91A3-2A. I'll make a motion to seal those indefinitely.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then we also had one under 91A3-2C. I'll make a motion to seal those right now.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
They're all done. All right, there's cheesecake here.